Hello everyone, welcome to the market recap for today, April 25th, 2016. This is Jake Pelly. So always, here's the fun disclaimer to think about, and seeing how this is not a live show, and I'm recording it right now, you can always pause and come back to this. So today we're going to look at the market recap for the SPY, the QQQs, the Microsoft, UVXY, and USO, and Apple. So we'll start right off with Apple here. We can see Apple is hitting these trend lines here that we drew last week in the big meetup. You can see here that right here the 104 and 105 is going to be an area of support. It's going to have a hard time to cross below, but if we do, we can see in this range here between 104 to 102, 100 even is going to be the range. We can see that MACD has definitely crossed to the bulls. Stochastics say that we are oversold, and RSI says we are heading towards a little bit of weakness here in Apple. Apple does have earnings tomorrow. We did close about flat for the day, which is not surprising, seeing the overall market today. And so we'll see where market is heading to tomorrow. Now we have earnings tomorrow, so it's going to be volatile tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. If we do cross below here, we are headed back into this trend channel here, so just be careful. But if we do cross up, get a nice gap up, well, we can see we're going to be crossing back up, a little bit of resistance at the 107, the 108, then cross back into this channel here. We'll see tomorrow in the earnings, but it does look like the indicators are going towards the bears. Moving to the SPY today, we can see the market a little bit flat today too. We opened at 208.26, we closed at 208.61. Pretty flat day. Volumes slowly lightening up too. We can see that MACD has very anemic here. No which way or the other it's going to go. Stochastics says we are still overbought, and RSA says we're recorded a little bit more in the upper of the channel too. Relative strength. So if this market does rally, we're going to be rallying into a overstrong market, into an overbought market, into a MACD that is slightly sideways. So we'll see from there. Just neutral trades right here will seem to be doing the best. We do have all central banks reporting this week, so that's probably what we're going to get until we get the central bank meeting this week. Is probably a lot of sideways action into the market, depending on how Apple does tomorrow on earnings. Moving into the QQQs, which is the ETF of the NASDAQ. We can see here today it opened at 108.62 and it closed at 108.98, which again, very, very flat for the day. We can see MACD is slightly crossing down to the bears, a little bit stronger than what we saw in the SPY. We can see Stochastics say we're now a little bit still overbought, but we're crossing back down, and RSI says we're about in the middle here. So a lot of indicators are not giving a lot of clear signal which way they want to go. So if I had to scale 1 to 5, 5 being lightly bearish, 1 being lightly bearish, and 5 being strongly bearish, I'd say this is neutral to lightly bearish signals right now. But we do have earnings tomorrow for Apple. That should drive the market the next day. So just keep you aware of that. But we are most likely going to be going flat here until later this week when you have central bank reporting. On top of that, we do have two of the world's largest oil producers also having earnings out Friday, so just keep that in mind as well. And they come out together both on Friday, so that's going to be pretty volatile. Going into Microsoft, I do have a position in Microsoft right now. As we know from last week, I bought Microsoft, sold a covered call, financed a put before earnings, and now that put is doing pretty well. I'm going to be selling that put particularly at the end of this week, depending on how the Federal Reserve meeting. Again, everything revolves around central banks here. So we'll see where to go. RSI says we are into weakness right here. Typically below 50 is weakness. Stochastics says we are more towards the oversold than overbought. And the bears are showing a clear signal in the MACD that it is a bearish cycle here. We can see here if we look at the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average, we can still say the 50 is above the 200. So that's a little bit more of a bullish indicator than bearish. If this 50 cross below the 200, then it's more of a bearish signal there. The bears say we are a little bit in a bearish MACD here. We can see some very strong MACD signals, but we are more oversold. There was a gap here. And we do have an RSI that says relative weakness right now. We did went to a area of strength, as we can see here, above the 60. Anything above the 50 is pretty strong, and anything below the 30 is relatively weak, so we can see we're in that channel here. I'd be inclined to be a little bit more bullish than bearish on here, but we can see here that we do have the 50.74 being a weak area of support, and to cross above the 52, 53 would be a clear bullish signal. Moving to the UVXY, we can see here we're still on a downward cycle in volatility. Pretty anemic MACD, not really indicating which way it wants to go. We have stochastic saying that we are way oversold here, and really weak in the RSI. So volatility is looking poised to have a little bit more of a breakout than the rest of the market, though it can typically break down, as you can see here. The VIX is relatively low right now for this time of year, but it did have a nice pop today, and then we declined. And we're probably going to be flat until the central banks come out today. So just be careful in the UVXY trade. It still has not found a clear bottom yet. Looked around 1450 to be about a bottom, and about 18 to be a head. Here at resistance. Moving to USO. USO opened today at 1078 and closed at 1055, so a little bit more downish. We have MACD starting to show a little bit of bearish signal, but we'll see here. Stochastics are way overbought still, and we're in about neutral relative strength. This area has held pretty nicely here once I get this pointer here. Going. Sorry for that little bit of delay. Here we go. We can see here, much of my tools. Here we go. We can see that around the 1079 has been a point of resistance, has a hard time crossing above it. We can see we tested a lot. Here we go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times we've tested and yet to cross it, but we are testing a lot. So I mean, it does poise for a little bit more of a breakdown than a break up. We still are in a wash of oil. There's a lot of supply towards demand. We have production that's going to be picking up, not slowing down. We are going into the summer months though, so just keep that in mind. So there's a lot more demand for gasoline during the summer months, and so there's a lot of supply that still has to be eaten through, but any decline in the supply side will be seen as bullish for this market, even though there is, I believe, somewhere in the upwards of $358 million barrel surplus right now. It still has to eat through before it can finally start seeing decline. Any decline in this market in that surplus will be seen as a bullish indicator. Let's keep that in mind. We're still overbought. We are still in the midpoint for relative strength, looking for guidance. Short-term support at 1018. Resistance looks to be here, as we said. If we do cross above, we'll be looking here at the 1149 as a next point of resistance. If we go, we can see that. We're going back in this channel here. We can still see that 50 is below the 200-day moving average, but it's looking to cross here. I do have a position on USO right now. I bought my position at 932, and I sold 15 calls at the 9.5 against it. They're in the money right now, and I'm okay with it getting called away. A profit is a profit for me, and I'm pretty happy with that. I do have 5 more shares that will expire next week for a covered call at 9.5 as well, and so we'll see from there. It looks like right now that around the 1035 area is support, so if we cross below that, we can see right here at 883 would be an area of short-term support, and so we'll see from where we're going from here. So as always, be aware of tomorrow we have earnings from Apple. We have later this week, we have all central banks talking this week. We have China's central bank. We have Bank of Europe, we have Bank of Japan, and we have the monster of all of them, the FOMC. The likelihood of the FOMC raising rates is very low. Most likely they'll be looking into June to be raising rates if they stick to the 2 years of rate increase, which I highly doubt, seeing how the rest of the world is going to negative rates. Any signal that says they are looking to maybe push that further off will be bullish for the market. I know that's kind of odd, but bad news is good news, and so any type of pushing off interest rates will be seen as a bullish market. So look for Fed guidance coming into next week, which I believe it's Wednesday they are going to be talking. They won't be having a press conference, so just keep that in mind. As always, this has been your market recap. This is Jake Pelly. Everyone have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you tomorrow.